Peace and love to everybody. Peace and love. This is AD at African Traditions, and we are having the People's Enrichment Program here today. And Mrs. Shamika Webb gave me the pleasure of allowing me to be here, so I appreciate that. So today's lesson, we're going to talk about the Old Kingdom, aka the Old Empire, and it started around 2649 BCE to 2134 BCE, also known as the Pyramid Age. The Pyramid Age is very exciting. That's when all the pyramids were built for the kings, they say, but that's according to Eurocentric and chauvinist perspective of the pyramids and why they were built. I would say and argue, like most Afrocentric scholars, that is built for the queens, because you don't build a great house and call it a pharaoh and it's just for the man. It's definitely for a queen. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But anyway, let me go to the first part of the preface of the lesson. So I know I spoke about the law of divine oneness before. I kind of want to add on to the law of divine oneness to preface what we're going to be talking about. So the ancestors pretty much understood that we came from the stars, we came from the sun, we came from copper, we came from water. So essentially, dark matter or black energy and melanin are symbolic to the triple stage of darkness. So darkness means nothing. There's no aim. There's no purpose pretty much behind it. But all things are pretty much tied together to make up that nothingness, which is us. We fill up that void. I already mentioned in my previous lecture that we are the Ben point, also known as Anu, which is a Kemet term meaning the beginning. So we've already talked about that. And then you have the Anunian Theurgy, which is the divinities that you see, like Tefnut, Aset, Asar, Haru, all these different figures that make up the Anunian Theurgy, which is the creation of existence, that are symbolic to that. So that's what that is pretty much talking about when you think about the law of divine oneness on a metaphysical level. Out of negation came creation. So the numbers 1 through 9 are sacred when you think about numbers. Anything after 10 is a duplicate. So 1 through 9 was considered sacred, and 1 through 10, like I said, is pretty much the makeup of everything. Everything else is a duplicate. So if you look at the number 0, it's the cipher, and that's why the woman has 3 trimesters during the 9 months of pregnancy. The first 3 months, the first one is for the first 3 months. The second one is for the third 3 months, and then the second one is for for 3 months, and then the third is for 3 months. So it's 9 months for the pregnancy. So there's no set birth record when it comes to that. So when you think about the universal mind and consciousness and why we're here, is because, like, it goes back to negation. Out of negation came creation. You think of that cartoon character that you like to see in the cartoons, and that light bulb pops up above his head. That's symbolic to the spark or the electrical implosion, which becomes self-realized or self-realization. Okay, so that's the origins of the universe. No biological phenomena can explain first individual experience. So everybody's individual experience is different. So like everybody right now, we're having an experience, whether you're moving around, walking in here inside this building, I'm in here, so we're having an individual experience that make up who we are, and that explains why the first individual experience is the ultimate makeup of you. And really, physical matter can't really be explained, because physical matter, when you think about physical matter, you got to look at the perceptual activity that we're all involved in. So that leaves us with the peripheral view, of what reality is. That's a minuscule scale of what reality is, because you can't really, you know that there's more to be explored, and you're under this body, this vessel that you're living in, that gives you your experience and trial and error and all these things. So you live and you learn. So that makes up reality. That's the ultimate experience, which is the Ben Ben point. It's symbolic to the very top of the obelisk. It's symbolic to the sun. It's also symbolic to you being the ultimate sustainer of existence yourself. You filling up that void, just like the sun is in the heart of the in the solar system. That's a part of experience. That experience that we can't even really put words to fathom how to explain it. So that's why that's important. But anyway, so you exist, I exist, Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because we are. We are because I am. So.
Butu?
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, it means okay. I am because we are. We are because we. I am. So. And with that being said, so this is one of the earliest women, from the Pyramid Age around 4,500 BCE, and this was according to the great historian, the African historian Runoko Rashidi. He's done tons of works uncovering Africa, Kemet, Ethiopia, and all these great African nations that we have here today. So he's responsible for he gets all the credit for this. So, but anyway, so I wanted to show y'all that, the early depiction of that, of a woman. And then I also want to kind of talk about the Eye of Haru. The Eye of Haru is a quintessential symbol of awakening of divine consciousness, representing the concept of Nehes. The Eye of Haru is the right eye, which is the representation of the sun. The left eye of Jehudi is the representation of the moon. So you got the left and the right eye, which are complementary to each other when it comes to light and darkness, the yin and the yang, all of these different things that make up your existence. So that is that. And then when you think about the figure Haru, Haru has been in the original Trinity with Aset and Asar. Aset and Asar. They're the first considered quote unquote Holy Trinity before the Holy Trinity existed. And there are a ton of trinities throughout Kemet. If you look at it, Amen Ra, Ptah, that's a Holy Trinity. And then Haru has a Trinity within himself to create, time as like the morning, noon, and then the evening. So it's very symbolic. So that's how we were talking about time earlier. You measure time through nature. So that's how they measure time. So that is that. And then these are the actual maps. They're kind of blurry, but nonetheless, I'll show you guys. I'll read a few cities here from the book because they're kind of blurry here on the projector here. So let me just read. Really, the city we're going to be talking about today is going to be Saqqara, and it has a lot of the pyramids are there, including the Saqqara complex and the great pyramid plateaus. Those are there as well, and that's symbolic to astronomy, mathematics, and all these different things. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And with that being said, Giza is at the very bottom, and Saqqara is at the very bottom of Lower Kemet. Lower Kemet is really considered North Kemet. So it's the opposite. So Lower Kemet is north, Upper Kemet is south, and the Nile Valley River flowed from the north to the south. So that's the two cities that we're pretty much going to really get into is Giza and Saqqara. The other cities are symbolic too for like when we talk about Asar and how his brother killed him, and there's different stories to it, but one of the stories is that his brother killed him, Seth, which is responsible for egoism, and he pretty much killed them, and he pretty much threw him in the Nile River, and then he was later found by Aset, and she took him in and she revived him. And the other stories is that he got cut up into many different pieces, and it made up all the different cities. It was symbolic to every city that was established during that time. And then she recovered his phallus because that's symbolic to the life force.
Right.
So yeah, so that is another a story of Asar. But yeah, so I'm jumping kind of ahead of myself, but nonetheless, you got Abydos on here as well. That's another big city during this time too. So Abydos, Saqqara, Giza, and all the other cities are, they're not as big as the three cities that I just named. So I just want to let you guys know that. With that being said, I just put the clicker's right here. Okay. So that's just to show you that. So just going into the third dynasty of Kemet, there's after that exponential growth, the old kingdom or the old empire was about balance and building. One of the great master teachers, he doesn't like using the term old kingdom or the old empire. He actually likes to use golden age instead, because the golden age is more, it gives it more of a symbolic feel to it. So that's what I should have put in there, so ignore that. I'm learning as I go. So anyway, the first temple was built for the sun god Ra. So Ra is considered to be the creator of, the whole monotheistic, polytheistic religion, meaning that from one supreme God comes many other gods. So that is, or you can call it mononistic, or monistic, or mononism. So yeah, you could call it that, and that's pretty much symbolic to the birth of many gods and the starting point, because Anu, remember, means the beginning, the starting point. So in the Sinai region of Nubia, copper, turquoise, gold, incense, ivory, and ebony were the main sources during this time. Also with Ra, as I mentioned in my other lecture before, even though Ra is symbolic to being like the head honcho of the Kemetic tree of life and all of that good stuff, Noon, who is the primeval ocean, she's pretty much guiding them on the boat, and she has her hands going like this to kind of guide all the goddesses, or the gods and the goddesses on the boat. So it's symbolic to that as well. So I just want to throw that in there as well. So that is one thing I wanted to say. And then King Zoser, or Zoser, around 2630 BCE, Zoser builds the Step Pyramid. So if you look back to the mastabas were more like just, if you look at this is more like it gets bigger or it gets smaller as you go up. So like with these, it's like a mastaba stacked on top of a mastaba. A mastaba is stacked on top of each other, and that's symbolic to the ascension of the higher self. When you look at this as well, so so that is the Step Pyramid of Saqqara and how it looked, and it was something else I wanted to mention. So with the mastabas, you notice that the early mastabas, it was like a square, and that was it, and the entrance at the top was how you would get in. But this is a later period where of course, they kind of more advanced, it's more sophisticated, and uh, the architecture structure for at least 3,000 years this paved the way for the pyramids that were built over 70 pyramids built. So this is like this sets the tone for 3,000 years of how they're going to structure the pyramids and the great temples and stuff of that, things of that sort. So this is the ultimate structure standpoint foundation. So that is King Joser. And I want to bring up Amenhotep as well here, but just getting here before I get to Amenhotep. So around 2700 BCE in the Saqqara, a city 15 miles south of modern Cairo, was just west of Memphis, south of Giza. This dates back to the first dynasty, Amenhotep, who was a multi-genius or a Renaissance man. So Amenhotep pretty much was, like I said, was a multi-genius poet, philosopher, architect. He was responsible for not really building the Saqqara, but he's responsible for building the pyramid, the Great Pyramids in Giza. So he's responsible for doing that. So before I actually get into more about him, I want to say I don't like using the term pharaoh. I like using this term Gu right here, which is symbolic to a king, but they didn't use the term pharaoh. I know it means great house, but this is the term that Anthony Browder uses, so that's the term I use. So I'm going to try to use that anyway.
Who's your source? Anthony Browder?
Yes, Anthony Browder, yes. And with that being said, these are more of the details of how the Saqqara complex was built. I want to go to the page because I know you can't hardly see it from there. So let me actually go to the page so I can read the excerpt from the side so you guys can have more of the details of everything. So give me one moment to go locate that page for you guys.
King, would you like a bottle of water?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry, I didn't use one to you sooner.
Yeah, it's all good. So, let me find it. It's actually,
There you go.
okay.
I just opened a little bit for you.
So let me find this page for y'all so y'all can read this off on the side. Okay. Okay, so here you go. So this is the enclosure wall of the Saqqara complex with the step pyramid in the background. So the step pyramid is in the background right here. So this here notes the similarity between the enclosure wall of the Saqqara and the detail of the palace facade from the Nubian incense burner found in Kastal, which is 3400 BCE. Okay, and then this right here is the detail, the next part, or the previous part actually. I had, which is to go back here. Yeah, so this part here is the detail engaged column at the temple complex. So that's just how the columns look. And later you see the Greeks kind of emulate the same columns like around like 3,000 years after the temple of Saqqara and the Great Pyramids were built. Let me see. So I want to show some things that kind of show you like an emulation of these columns. The columns are right here. So the Greco-Roman orders are Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, Tuscan, and Composite. So these type of things here paved the way for the Greeks to know how to construct their monuments and in temples and things of that sort because they got this from, of course, Kemet. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. So with that being said, so Amenhotep, he had so many different titles. He actually was very popular, more popular than the king, and he was one of the first men to actually, or noblemen to actually become more popular than the king himself. So he was a multi-genius, as I mentioned, and he goes by many titles. He's the original anointed one. He was considered the first Christ. He was a physician and everything of that sort. So he was a genius, pretty much, the first genius to create many different things like the pyramids. Also, what else I wanted to say about Amenhotep? So Amenhotep too is the son of Ptah. So he becomes deified after his death. 2,000 years later, he becomes deified, and the Greeks adopt him, and they call him Asclepius, and he becomes god of medicine. So that is something that the Greeks did as well with Amenhotep. So I mentioned already he was the first Christ, the anointed one. He's also given the title the Prince of Peace, Chancellor of Kemet, Chancellor of the King of Lower Kemet, High Priest of Anu, Administrator of the Great Palace, the first after the King of Upper Kemet. So I already pretty much went over all that with y'all. So that is a little statue of him, which is around 2700 BCE. That's another figurine of him.
Does your red light work?
Huh?
Your red light works.
Oh yeah. I wasn't paying it. Yeah, I just had not worried about it anymore. So anyway, so this is the 4th dynasty, and all the great pyramids were built at Dashar and Giza built. So with the Giza, as the sun rises up, in between, that's very symbolic to like the coordinates of how how pretty much how the sun is able to come up, and then you're able to see like the exact coordinates of like the pyramids being like in the center of the Earth's be the center of the Earth to the North Pole. So the person that built these pyramids, they knew trigonometry and geometry so well that the base of it was equivalent to the golden number pi. So like it's very structured well. It took about over 2 million stones to build those the pyramids, and then each pyramid weighs about 2.5 million tons, if I'm not mistaken. So it was pretty big for them to do this. So there's all sorts of theories of how the pyramids were built. Some people say that extraterrestrials did it. So I consider many Africans us to be extraterrestrials because, of course, we come from the cosmos. We come from the cosmos, and we come from stardust. We come from different sorts of things that make up who we are. So that's another theory that some people will say. A person named Bobby Hemmitt, if somebody knows, whoever knows him as a scholar, he's also mentioned that there was powdery substances that the Egyptians could have used that could produce alchemy, so it allowed things to be moved from one place to another place. So that's another theory that he threw out there, because he said archaeologists and European historians went and uncovered this powdery substance, and they realized what it could do. Well, they didn't realize what they could do with it because they didn't know what it was for, what the purpose was. But as they uncovered it, they lost a lot of the powdery substance, and now it's kind of like hidden in the archives. That's what Bobby Hemmett says. So I just thought I would throw that out there. But this definitely debunks, though. Another thing that the pyramids debunk is something about like how it says like in the Bible that the Jews were responsible for building the pyramids. So the pyramids was actually it's actually older than what the Bible declares it during the time. So it would have been impossible for the Jews to have built the pyramids because the time of which the pyramids were built, they were actually older than when, you know, the Bible declares when the Jews built it. So that's actually that's a misnomer. That's not true. So I want to say that. So this happened around 2575 to 2465 BCE. And then you have the three kings here that's going to be represented in the pyramid age. But I also want to say too, the sum of the base, as I mentioned before, is over 3,000 feet. Thus, it covers about 7 cities, so that's pretty big. I know I got a lot of typos, so excuse that. But the height of the pyramid is well over 400 feet, and like I said, it includes the base platform of the center of the Earth to the North Pole. So this is symbolic to the stars and in coordinates of the celestial bodies. So this is like you got I believe it was Set is in the south, and then you got Asar, which is Osiris, is on the right. So the right and the left is symbolic to upper and lower Kemet, the unification of those two. So it's a whole lot of astrology and constellations involved with the pyramids being built. It's not just a big monumental thing that you can just look at and appreciate, which is good. It's still one of the oldest 7 wonders of the world. It's still one of the few that's standing, even though it was said too that that it has became like shorter than what it originally was because the alignment of the Earth's crust made it kind of smaller, and then of course you had invaders like the Arabs coming in to break interest and try to steal a lot of treasures and things of that sort. But unfortunately, they wasn't able to uncover any of that stuff. But there are different chambers I want to get into too. When you look at these, when you look at the pyramids itself, though, and like I mentioned, like I said before, those who constructed the pyramids knew the precise circumference of the Earth. So the pyramid's design is in accordance with pi, which is 1.618, which is called the golden number. So yes, so like I said, we already kind of went over that. It's over 2 million stones and make up the pyramids itself. And a lot of the pyramids were made out of limestone, diorite, and granite. So those are the things that made up the stones. And let me actually go into this book here to show you or name off the interests of everything. So number one right here, right there, that point right there is the main entrance, and then number 2 right here is the second entrance, which is Amenem's forced entrance. He was an Arab that invaded it around 1000 to 1200 BCE. He invaded it, and then you got number 3 right here, which is the ascending passageway, okay? And then you got number 4 Number 4 right there in that line, you got right there is the passage to the Queen's Chamber. Now they make the Queen's Chamber. They say they give her the smaller one, and then they give the King's Chamber a much bigger chamber. But like I said before at the beginning of the lecture, I believe that that's more of a chauvinist and a Eurocentric point of view, because when you build something monumental like this, it's not just for the man. It's already been declared that Kemet is a predominantly matriarchal society, and that's what it was made up of, because you got the 42 laws of Ma'at, the 42 affirmations of Ma'at, and then you got the 42 Declaration of Innocence from Ma'at, and that's why we would consider it to be more of a matriarchal society. But anyway, going back to the chamber here, going to the fifth dynasty. I mean, the fifth part of it, which is the Queen's Chamber, is right there. Sixth part of it right here is the Grand Gallery. So that's where all the gallery and things and the paintings and stuff will be right there. And then you got number 7. Number 7 is right here, which is the King's Chamber. It's much more bigger, and it's right in the middle. And then you got number 8, which are multiples. It's the observation shafts are right here. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you got number 9. Number 9 is going down this way, which is the descending passageway. And then you got number 10, which is the underground chamber here. And then you got number 11. 11 right here will be on the outskirts of the pyramid, which was made out of limestone. And then you got number 12, which is the current outer surface. So you got that part. So I just wanted to kind of break that down so y'all can kind of understand the makeup of the interior of the pyramid. It's very complex, very beautiful structure, very monumental, very sophisticated stuff, man. So it's real cool. You know, I think it's cool. So you got the king Seneferu, Khufu. Khufu, there's an image of him at the bottom right there, which is around 2575 BCE. These were the kings during the time. And the same here, you got Khafre and Menkaura, and you got both of them here, and these are little statues of them. They ruled, these were the kings that ruled.